Thank you for tuning in to my channel. I am committed to informing, educating, and entertaining in a manner that mainstream media cannot. And if you're here for the first time, please do me a favor by liking this video and subscribing to this channel so that in the event I upload fresh and informative content such as this, YouTube will automatically notify you. All right, guys, I hope you're good. Now let's proceed with our story of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not aware, then it should be known to you quite clearly that Kenya is an immoral country. We are a country that steals. We are a country that robs. The people in high offices are fond of stealing and robbing our children of their future. If they are not stealing public resources, they are stealing the elections. If they are not stealing the elections, they are involved in some of the world's biggest scandals, where money simply disappears with no traces and with no accountability. In this video, I want to walk you through 4 of the biggest scandals in William Ruto presidency, where money simply disappeared without no trace and accountability. And so having said that, let's get right into it. Scandal number 1 is the health insurance fraud in Kenya called SHA, where Kenyans have lost a whopping 11 billion shillings. The CS for Health at the helm of that docket is not giving us any reason of substance where this money is gone. He's not telling us who stole the money. He is simply telling us that 11 billion Kenya shillings, an equivalent of $85 million, has simply disappeared from the health ministry. No reasons, no accountability. In fact, an audit revealed that SHA, that is to say the Social Health Authority, lost 11 billion to fraud between October 2024 and April 2025. And this stemmed from fraudulent activities submitted by private hospitals, including fake patient records, inflated bills, and ghost patients. The CS for Health, Aiden Duale, actually confirmed these losses, attributing them to systemic losses in the verification process that happens just before patients are treated. But instead of coming clean on where this money has gone to and how it can be recovered, the CS for Health, Eden Duale, is instead doing TV interviews day in, day out, talking to us about mechanisms that they have put in place to ensure that no fraud of such magnitude occurs again. And this is what is driving some of us to believe that it could be the top dog, in conjunction with top health officials, including Eden Duale, who are behind this scandal. Now, scandal number 2 is the edible oil scandal, where Kenyans lost a whopping 16 billion shillings, equivalent to $124 million US. Now, how did this scandal begin? It began in 2023, and it was launched by President Ruto himself. And the president intended to do it via the National Trading Corporation. What happened is that this program imported 125,000 to 150,000 metric tons of edible oil worth between 14 to 17 billion shillings. And this oil was exempted from 35% import duty, including other levies. And this was meant to stabilize the soaring edible oil costs amid global inflation. And as you may ask, who are the criminals behind this scandal? Private firms like Puma Holdings Limited received irregular contracts. Syndicates and suppliers allegedly supplied overpriced and substandard oil. Some imports were flagged by KEBS as unfit for consumption, and there was an organized network involved in this procurement fraud. And as usual, there are insiders who have to make money from every scandal. So who are the criminals who made money from this scandal? These included the National Trading Authority insiders, including former Managing Director Pamela Nduku Mutua, who by the way was charged with procurement violations. Another insider who made money out of this was the supply chain manager Amos Juma Sikuku, who was charged in court, but the charges were later dropped in 2025 due to what the court referred to as insufficient evidence. You see, the problem with this scandal is that it simply disappeared. It never saw the light of day when it came to investigations. In fact, what happened is that public attention shifted to other scandals. The media was intimidated, and there was a lot of political interference with the investigations, pointing fingers to the top dog behind all this scheme of edible oil. Now, scandal number 3 is the fake fertilizer scandal, where taxpayers lost a whopping 12 billion shillings. How did it start, and how did it go, and what was the conclusion behind it? Well, this fake fertilizer scandal began in 2024 under President Ruto's subsidized fertilizer program. At first, this was aimed at boosting food production. But as time went by, it became clear that this was a means whereby the government could defraud billions of shillings from taxpayers' accounts. In fact, it was widely reported that farmers were given fake fertilizers, that is to say, stones coated with chemicals, and this fertilizer could not dissolve even when it rained, unlike the usual fertilizer. So farmers reported a lot of frustration and a lot of blackmail. They did use this fertilizer, but they quickly discovered that it was fake. And the most annoying thing is that it was supplied by the government. And as usual, there has to be criminals behind it. So who are the criminals behind it? These were business syndicates and suppliers like Kel Chemicals, SBL Innovate Manufacturers, which is linked to businessman Josiah Kimani Kariuki, and the non-existent 51 Capital Africa Diatomite Industries. What we saw was DCI arresting officials from these manufacturing companies who manufactured and supplied this fake fertilizer. But the end result, it became forgotten, just like that. And you can remember during this time, Mithika Linturi was the CS for Agriculture, and he faced a lot of coercion, including threats of impeachment because he was at the center of the distribution of this fake fertilizer. But sadly, it became forgotten. There was no public prosecutions on these criminals. The media was intimidated, and no major audits allowed this scandal to recede. Quite sad, quite unfortunate. But as taxpayers, what can we do is to simply make noise about it the way I'm doing, so that the whole world can watch and see the kind of leadership and government that we have in our country, Kenya. And finally, scandal number 4 is that of condemned sugar disappearance. You see, in 2018, there's a company that imported 20,000 bags of brown sugar from Zimbabwe. This sugar was intercepted by KEBS at the port of Mombasa. And what happened is that KEBS condemned this sugar for destruction because it did not have an expiry date and it was allegedly contaminated. But the shocker here is that this sugar later went into circulation in the Kenyan market. And the reason behind it is greed, fraud, and self-serving of the leaders that we have in office. This sugar had been stored at a warehouse somewhere in Thika, and in 2023, it mysteriously disappeared and entered the market after irregular approval for ethanol conversion. The perpetrators behind this were key government officials from KEBS, KRA, and the police unit. And again, it was reported that 2 Central Kenya members of parliament, whose names remained undisclosed, orchestrated the release of this sugar via a hijacked process, bypassing tenders and taxes. And as usual, insiders made money from these scandals. Private sales were made at 1,000 shillings per 50 kg bag to Nairobi buyers, and this evaded ethanol factories and payments. Taxpayers lost about 20 million shillings, which was the sugar value at that time, plus the investigation costs, health risks from unfit consumption, and unrecovered assets. And in this, there was no quantifiable kickbacks, but 27 Kenyan officials were suspended from their jobs as a result. But even after the suspension, the damage has already been done. The sugar that is contaminated, that had no expiry date, was already in contamination as a result of greed and gluttony of those in high offices. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is all that I had for you today. Do let me know your thoughts and opinions by dropping a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more informative content such as this. I am committed to informing, educating, and entertaining in a manner that mainstream media cannot. And if you're here for the first time, please check out my YouTube channel, and I guarantee you're gonna be treated to a ton of content of this nature, of politics, policy, and governance issues in our country. All right, guys, this is all that I had for you in this video. Let us meet up in my next upload. But until then, bye-bye.